Pascual y Tonali, muy buen día a todos ustedes. We're here at Raíces del Saber, Xinachli Community School, and I want to talk a little bit about the way we do letters. And this is a video for parents and for children and for teachers. The way we use sound to introduce letters and to learn how to sound out words. In regular education, they call this TPR, but it is something more than just TPR, which means total physical response. It is based on a philosophy that's also well known by those that are acquainted with the Waldorf education, where they use eurythmy, which is a combination of movement and sound to learn language. Anyway, I want to begin by relating this to a story in Nahua or Aztec mythology. And the story is this, that before there were human beings on the earth, those that the creators or the makers were watching a sunrise. And as the sun rose, they heard the birds singing. And one of them commented, "Isn't it beautiful how the birds sing to the sun?" And then another one said, "Yes, they sing that way, but because that's the way we've made them. They can't help but sing." And then another one said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could make a creature, a being, that would sing to the sun just because they want to, not because we made them that way?" And so, according to the legend, that's how human beings, the idea of human beings came to be, in that the maximum expression of art and beauty is in sound. And certainly we see that in music. But sound is very, very important to a human being's learning, especially children's learning. So, in our classroom, in our pedagogy, we begin with young children with what we call the process of 3 and 1, which means 3 sounds and 1 breath. And that's the first exercise of combining language and sound. Now, some of you might find this familiar, but it's 3 sounds that are primordial sounds: the ah, the and the o sound. And those are the 3 basic movements of your lips: ah, o, and so we begin with a hand sound exercise, beginning here, and the idea is to learn to do this with 1 single breath, all 3 sounds with 1 single breath. Now I have some practice, so I'm able to extend that 1 breath with those 3 sounds. With the children, we begin with a minimum of time, with not too much time, not too much of an expanse of breath. And this is basically how it goes. And this exercise, it helps them build their lung capacity, and it also helps them relate sounds with forms. The letter A, the letter O, and the letter M. And it also has to do with the concept of how things begin. Expansion, formation, and then replication or division, so that the one becomes two. So that's the first exercise that we do with the children. The second is introducing the 5 vowels. And this is 1 breath per vowel, and the idea again is to make the vowel as long as possible. And again, we always center here. Breath. 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 And as you see, children begin exercising their lips, their mouth, their vocal cords. It's a good way of getting them to enunciate, to use their verbal capacities. Now, from there, we also introduce the letters. You notice that the sounds I'm using right now are sounds in Spanish, but you can do the sounds in English as well. Except for the a, o, m, that is pretty much standard. That's for English, Spanish, basically any language. But the letters is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Y luego los sonidos C, H, Ch, L, L, Y, R, R, R. And then we begin spelling words that way. Like, for example, if we're learning agua, first we spell it A, E, U, A. Then the children learn to sound it out. Agua. And of course, you can pick up speed so that it's a-g-u-a. In eurythmy, in the Waldorf school, they actually do sentences and paragraphs and stories with body language. So the words of the spelling is, first we show them the letters as they're written out. Then we spell them with our bodies, like for example, Luna, L U N A. That's after we spell it with the actual written letters, and then we sound it out. Luna. And after a while, the children they really get into it. It's pretty fast, and this way they can relate sound to letters. Later, as we evolved in the training, for example, yo soy, a simple sentence, is yo soy. And that's a simple sentence. Then if we increase the pacing to a larger sentence, yo soy un niño. But of course you start out slow. Yo soy un niño. And then you can get creative and actually go beyond the letters, so that you kind of allude to the letters, but it's a much faster, and in the content it gets larger, to actually make stories by combining sound and movement. But right now at Raices we have K through second, so we're barely developing this kind of pedagogy. It's also good to combine, in the beginning, teach them to combine, for example, two vowels. I, ao, ae, ao, and you can combine them in any order. O, and then a word like hola. And we found that acquainting children with letter knowledge and spelling and the beginning of forming sentences through the use of characters, letter characters, that this is a very developmentally appropriate, developmentally friendly way of introducing children to formal spelling, formal letter recognition, formal word recognition, and sentence formation. So, this is our way of combining sound, tlactol, with letters. And let me say goodbye with the exercise, the initial exercise. 1 breath, 3 sounds. Un respiro, 3 sonidos. lo que siento, lo que pienso, guía lo que hago. Thank you. Gracias. Tlazocamati.